Welcome to the Youth Group Memes podcast. I am Dan.
I am Dave.
And we are not the
same person. And we are here with a guest. We have Meredith Ann Miller with us. She is a pastor, parent, and author with over 20 years experience with children's ministry and curriculum, helping grown-ups and the kids that they love engage the Bible and faith in life-giving ways. Welcome to the show, Meredith.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited about this.
Yeah. How are you doing? How's life?
All good. We are, I think, maybe finally in the flow of school. It's about week 8, right? So my kids are sort of getting the hang of it, and then we're going to go on like a lot of breaks. And so, yeah, we're feeling about like that.
Yeah, just in time for what at least we in this house refer to as no school November. They're I feel like they're off all of the time.
Yeah, and right before it, let's give them an ungodly amount of candy.
But this time we do that on a Friday. So they have the weekend to be with us.
Right.
Yes. Lovely. Just like we wanted. So Meredith, I want to get this out of the way on the air that I told you already privately that I almost immediately regretted inviting you on because you're a Los Angeles Dodgers fan.
Oh, that. Yeah. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm
you're
not.
Like, which one of the things is?
I know. It's like, why did I cause you regret? Because there's a list of options.
You guys won last year. Can't you give us one?
But see, our plan is just to have all the money. And if you're going to make your plan, have all the money, then you have to keep winning. That's the deal. Yeah. So, it's a complicated year for us. Like politically, it's just a complicated sort of thing. We love our team. We love our city. We have weird owners. It's just, I don't know. I think the city wants to win to sort of thumb their nose at the ownership this year. Gotta say.
All right.
So
it is a weird, we don't have to get too political or economic, but not a huge fan of like billionaires and hoarding money. But also I want all the Philadelphia sports owners to be billionaires and then to like make the teams really good. So,
well, this is the thing. Now that we're in that season, it doesn't suck. Like it's really kind of fun to watch your stadium get like rehabbed and like have these, there are some good things about that. Yeah.
Well, enough of that. We at the Youth Group Memes podcast, just like at Youth Group, you got to get started with a game. So are you down to play a game, Meredith?
Always. Absolutely.
All right. So this game is called Just Kidsmen or That's Sin. And so Dan and I, we have a few possible scenarios that could happen in kids ministry. And you, as the expert, have to tell us, oh, that's just kidsmen or that's sin. All right.
Okay. Whose definition of sin? Which denomination's definition of sin wins as the arbiter on this?
We'll let you decide.
Okay.
All right. Scenario number 1. I'll start. Pastor Dan, just picking a random name there. Pastor Dan conducts sword drills and offers a prize of $1 to the winner. Just kidsmen or that's sin?
That's sin. Easy. Sword drills need to die.
So it's the sword drills. It's not even the dollar prize.
No, give them all the money you want. Sword drills need to die. I once did a lesson where I gave every kid in the entire ministry some money, literally sent them home with cash for a reason. Yeah, that's all fine. Sword drills have to die. They only work for the kids they work for, and all the other kids can't hang, and then they feel crummy. And we don't do things that make kids feel crummy when we know better. So, that's it.
Yeah, that one homeschool kid that's got the tabs on the side of his Bible.
Which, tabs have always been cheating. Let's be real.
But obviously, always. Tabs are sin.
100% the tabs are sin. But just the game needs to go.
All right. So my other one, I guess, is sin too, because the one that I paired with this was going to be that Pastor Dan bets Pastor Dave an undisclosed amount of money on who he thinks will win the sword drill.
Oh, no, that's just kidding. You have to have things behind the scenes that help you get through the programming that you believe you need to do. So if you're stuck with the sword drills, at least, make a little wager on it.
Well, that's also coming from the Shohei Ohtani apologist. So she's all right with
yes.
a little skin in the game here and there.
I mean, money makes things happen sometimes.
Yeah, I wasn't betting on sword drills. It was my sign language interpreter for Sunday school who was betting on.
Hey, now.
All right, Dan, do you have one
All right.
for us?
All right, so first scenario, little Dave gets frustrated and throws his Bible at another student.
Oh, okay. So that is just kid bin. And that is where responding like it is sin leaves poor little Dave like just feeling awful about his own self because kids know they're not supposed to. So if they do it anyway, then that means we have this chance as grown-ups to be like, hey, can we chit chat about that? I feel like the flip side of that sin are the grown-ups who freak out at little Dave and like make it 10 times worse with their reaction. But the throwing it, it's
And
not
react
okay.
in front of everybody too.
Yeah, I mean, sure, not okay, but also like, comes with the territory. Kids bring a lot to church. They bring a lot. That's usually your first clue.
What about on the flip side? Pastor Dave gets frustrated and throws his Bible at a student.
And then gets put on a sabbatical.
Temporary leave, mutually agreed upon. We scheduled this months ago. It's not a big. True story. My dad may or may not have thrown a Bible at a student in Sunday school before. I think I'm fine saying that's sin. He's repented. He's in recovery. It's okay.
Now the thing would be, depending on what circle we're in, they're more upset about the Bible being thrown because of the Bible than they are about the kid that maybe got it, like nearly got it.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. So little Danny yells 6, 7 whenever any number at all is mentioned.
Oh, good Lord. I mean, it's just Kidman, right? Like my 10-year-old is playing fall baseball right now. And I don't know how many times I heard that just this weekend in our one game. Oh my gosh. It is just, they just love to think they're clever. Man, like especially, man, the younger they are, the more times it's going to come out because they never know when something's dead. It's just, they're so bad at being funny and they want to be funny so bad.
Yes.
That's the hard part about being involved in like middle school ministry and below, especially if you're connected online, because it takes the jokes months to get to that point. Like, yes. And if you're aware of them when they first come out, especially in like meme culture, and then it's been 6 months and now it's getting down to the elementary school kids and Dave and I both have, elementary school kids that like, I was aware of this months ago and now it's still hanging around.
Yes. Yeah. It wasn't funny to start and here we are.
Still
doing it. What if Pastor Dan constructs his entire lesson using only chapter verse references 6, 7?
I mean, challenge accepted. If you could make that happen, I would be impressed, actually. And honestly, you might successfully kill off your kids saying it by choosing to go after that lesson. So it might be a 2 birds in 1 stone situation.
Yeah. I will say not an official sponsor, but we've partnered with them before. But I did see right before we hopped on that Download Youth Ministry has a 6-7 hunt game that you can download and buy, which I think actually might incorporate sword drills and the 6-7. So all the things we've talked about, but it might be sin to buy it, according to Meredith. I don't know.
But yeah, Meredith, that's definitely the way we've gone after certain things. Is we as youth leaders try to make them cool or use those words and try to kill off Riz and 6-7 and stuff. It's once it gets back to the adults, then that's a surefire way to
it's a good strategy.
Make it uncool. All right, next one, or I guess is the last one from me. Trinity Church organizes a trunk or treat fall festival for the community.
Okay, here's my thing. I got nothing against trunk or treat, but like now that everybody is hosting one, the city is hosting one through the Chamber of Commerce. Your kid's elementary school is hosting one. Ours is this Friday night. Like if everyone is doing it, that's our clue that like we need to be all done now. Like once we're competing with our community, that's just dumb compared to being able to be in our community. And once everybody else is doing it, clearly that's not like a front edge type of opportunity that feels special or unique. Like, no, thank you.
So find a new lane.
Yeah. Like let's do something we haven't done before and just see what happens there.
All right. So here on the other side of it, Trinity Church organizes a judgment house for the community.
I mean,
that's something new. Chamber of Commerce isn't doing that.
I mean, it's
the
not
city's not doing that for the
the
people.
city's not doing it. Good point. I mean, that's sin. Let's be done with the fear. Oh my gosh. Why? No. I never knew about these like Hell House, Judgment House things. I am from Southern California. I have rarely been in the South. Like I didn't even know this was like a real thing. I thought it was a meme. Like I didn't think this was real. And then people started telling stories and I was like, why did anybody think we should do this?
Yeah. Thankfully, same. Like I know of them because other people had those experiences. I am not personally aware of them, thankfully.
But, thank goodness.
Yeah. Well, good job with the game. All complaints can be forwarded to Meredith. If you love Trunk or Treat or sword drills, you can stop listening now, I guess. But we're going to power on. Meredith, your work is centered around passing on faith that our kids, our students, won't have to heal from later on. So I am assuming that means you've nailed down all the perfect doctrines that we need to communicate to our students so that they get it right. That's what you're after, like perfect doctrine, right?
Yeah, everyone should just agree with me and do what I think.
Right. I got my notebook ready if you want to just start going right now.
Yeah, let's just we'll go. Yeah. We're here to present a systematic theology.
It really is. It's just the problem is simply that we've just had the wrong list of stuff and we just improve it and then shove it down kids' throats and everything will be fine.
Right. Okay, let's close in prayer and we'll go. So I'm assuming that's not what this is about. So what does it look like? How do we pass on a faith that kids don't have to heal from? I know you were a part of Fuller Youth Institute's look at the sticky faith, right? So how do we do that? How do we pass on a sticky faith, a faith that will last and that won't have to be like recovered from?
So I think that one of the places that we have not always attended to is that faith change should come for every young person in time. Like that is actually a normal and necessary part of faith development. And when we begin knowing a changing season will happen, then we get to decide, am I trying to like ensure the outcome on the other side of that? Am I trying to guarantee something or am I trying to equip a young person for that inevitable, normal, and necessary thing? And I actually just think that initial embrace of recognizing that when our youth move into their early adult years, they are going to revisit everything that they've inherited and sift. So what can we do for that season to really help that be a wonderful, important time, even though it might feel scary, even though it feels uncertain? And when that is part of what we know is coming, and when we also look at all the research on young people and faith formation, one of the things we really see is kids mainly need our presence and they need to be supported in a process. And I think a lot of the time what harms is rigidity and the assumption that if you don't believe the right things, there is loss kind of looming over you. And so you're going to lose the presence of the adults that are helping you because you've gone away from their opinions, or you have to agree with them without giving any process for what do you think or what do you wonder or what are you not sure about. And so I think that's really a big part when you say, hey, we want faith that isn't going to harm kids. We want a faith experience that isn't harmful. A lot of it really boils down to, do they have support? Are people present with them? And do they get a process where what they think and what they wonder about matters as opposed to just being told the systematic stuff?
I know one of the harmful things that like I've seen along with what you're saying is that mentality that churches have had sometimes where a kid or even a new Christian brings up a question and it's responded with, no, will you just believe this? And kind of that there's this inherent then thought process of like, well, God can't handle my questions, or I just have to believe without that. And God's not scared of, any question that like he's got answers, or, that he wants us to be inquisitive in that way and not to repress that.
Yeah, nurturing curiosity is actually a really helpful part of a young person's faith journey, as is creating safe space for doubt. Kids who come from really rigid cultures where every faith question has a predetermined answer from an adult and they're supposed to adopt it, they actually fare worse over their adult years than kids who come from faith cultures that embrace, like, there is uncertainty. There are great questions. We might carry those for a long time. Let me introduce you to some adults who still have questions. That culture actually serves kids way better when it comes to healthy faith over their like adult transition than the one that has it all locked down. Because the lockdown culture, it won't help a young person once they move into a season of life that has like hardship, right? That's usually what breaks all this certainty, is eventually something gets hard. And when everything was sure, then they don't have resources for hardship. Whereas when everyone's always been exploring together all along, then a painful season is just a different type of exploration. And you might not love it and you didn't choose it, but it doesn't mean everything is falling apart or that God won't be with you through it.
Right. Yeah. And I'm thinking now, like, we're all married and we all have kids, the three of us, not everyone.
Everyone listening.
And like, I'm thinking how many times I or my wife or my kids have been told something like, this is the right thing, this is what you should be doing, and I don't listen. But then like I come to it on my own, and then my wife's like, Dave, I've been telling you that for months. And I'm like, yeah, but now I know it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
because
yeah.
because it felt like it was mine. It was my decision. I got here. And like I see that in my kids all the time. And I'm also studying to be a licensed counselor, and like I'm not there to fix people's problems. I'm there to help them get to the solutions that they already know and have. And so faith is the same. It sounds like you're saying it, like, stick, it will last, it will be healthier if the kids and the students can arrive at the answers themselves rather than memorize these and don't ever forget.
I think that is a big part of it. It's a little bit of just understanding that what you're doing is making an introduction to a person. You're not just presenting kids with religious information. You're trying to say, hey, here is this God, and I would love to tell you more about what God is like and why I think this, both from the stories of scripture, from the stories from our community, by giving kids the space to practice connecting with God on their own through a variety of things. You're saying, hey, I'd love for you to meet them. I think that this God can be trusted, and this is why. But then you have to, give them the space to decide if they see it that way as well. And that you're there to help them in that, right? With the parts that aren't sure. That it's, I think, analogous to like you bring your kids to meet someone new for the first time and you're like, they're amazing, you're going to love them, they're so funny. Or they're amazing, they know magic tricks. Like, you're hyping up the person they're going to meet. But also, like, if your kid got to Aunt Susie's house for the first time and got real uncomfortable, you would not be like, tough, you're staying here for the weekend without me. Like, we don't bail on our kids when they're meeting someone new in a person-to-person relationship. I think there's an analogous idea to what we get to do with young people as we are introducing them to God and recognizing that the question, but can God be trusted? Like, that takes time for each of us to settle on. And it's never really one and done. It's sort of like a yes, and then there's like a yes, but, and then there's like a, oh my goodness, of course. And like that answer kind of flows seasonally, and it's a process in itself.
And there's that difference between knowing about God and knowing God. And so how can we foster an environment to help them, know God?
And I think recognizing that intersects a lot with understanding how kids grow and develop. Because when adults realize that's important, sometimes what that means is that they might try to invite kids who are very young into practices that help us know God. But the kids who are very young need stories about God, right? And then the ways that we practice creating space to be with God, to experience God personally, what those look like and how they go often align with sort of ages and stages of kids. I think sometimes we've sort of missed on the healing side of taking things that are meant for later seasons and shoving them younger and younger because we believe it's important. So like, just because a Christian should know it someday doesn't mean we actually have to do that today with this age of kid or this group of kid or this kid's story. And being able to have both the knowing about and the knowing God, but also recognizing a young person's development in that. I think that's also that whole idea of what do we mean by not having to heal? I think there's recognizing that a kid can grow as a kid and that we're not pushing for things that are good things, but in the wrong time.
Yeah. That takes wisdom. And And the two memes that we posted, like in conjunction with you leading up to this, I think both kind of touched on something that you talk about in your work frequently, a trust versus fear paradigm, which we've already kind of like stepped into that a little bit. But what's striking me now is like, I've thought about it as like, we want to teach our kids that they can trust God, not that they have to fear him. But there's also a trust fear aspect on the parent or the like Sunday school teacher side too, that I have to not be afraid that if I don't get it all the information in right now, they'll never get it. I have to trust that this is a long game and the Spirit's at work, and I don't have to do all of it right now in this moment.
100%. When I'm talking with ministry leaders, the goal I'll offer out for the time that we're workshopping together is, what if we're trying to be with these kids that God has given to us? What if we're trying to be with these kids as they get to know God so they can discover God can be trusted? That we're with them, whoever they actually are, whatever age, we get to serve with and all of that. And that it is, can God be trusted? And that, as the leaders, takes a lot of patience. It does. It takes a lot of trust on your own that God understands what it's like to be a kid who's growing. Um, I would say one of my hot takes is that a overwhelming amount of the children's and youth ministry models of the last handful of decades have been driven by fear. And that's part of where we've gone significantly wrong. That we had this idea that if we don't get kids to do something by some sort of arbitrary age marker, all is lost. And then we let that justify a lot of malpractice. And a great example would be when Barna's team said, hey, a lot's formed by age 13. And the number of communities that took that as license to try and push kids to make certain kinds of decisions before 13 by whatever method necessary, because we just had to lock that down because research says. Versus there were other faith communities that saw that and were like, oh, then we really want to invest in those first 13 years in families and warmth and connection. Like, let's put all the good things, but they weren't pushing for decisions. So it wasn't that everyone went that way. But I do think you don't get to force a kid into anything, no matter what any research says.
Right. Or on the other side, write somebody off as like, oh, you're 14. Oh,
Darn.
sorry. Enjoy the
Yes.
judgment house.
Yes. So that the trust paradigm, we're trying to introduce kids to a person, to God, who can be trusted.
Mhm.
What are like some, I guess, what are some like practical ways what might that look like in children's or youth ministry versus that fear paradigm? What changes on a practical level?
One of the big things that changes is the way we approach scripture and introduce kids to the Bible. So, especially in kids, you're going to see so much of a humans are heroes kind of model, where every story becomes about whether the person in it did the right thing or not, and what a kid is supposed to do because of this person's action. And that sort of human centric human hero model tends to leave kids thinking that the only thing that matters is how they behave. And so when you start to say, well, what if we're going for something where it's about getting to know God, growing trust, then really it's as simple as, when I'm telling stories, is God an actual active character? Am I looking for what a story tells me about who God is and what God's like? Am I asking my students, what did you notice about who God is in this story? And helping them see also that that's partially how we come to the Bible over and over and over again. It's a really helpful scripture skill to continue to revisit. What do I notice this time? And the fact that that will be different than what stood out to me a different time. But that flip of just moving away from humans as heroes and actually looking at stories as if God is a character, I think it's a big part of it. I think the older they get, the more youth groups have the tendency for the proof text. And that proof text tells all the kids exactly how they're supposed to act. And that kind of dies. And whenever we want to explore a topic or a theme together, it becomes a lot more about, what questions do we have about this? What stories might that remind us of in scripture? Does that remind us of verses? Are we sure those verses are about that? Like, it is a lot about fostering their critical thinking and their engagement with these ideas, and not just saying, we've got our key question. I'm going to read you 3 verses, and then you're going to agree with me about our conclusion, and off we go. We have a lot of things that have maybe accidentally implied to our young people that what matters most is how they behave. And underneath any system that says your good behavior matters most is fear. Is fear, but what if I don't behave? And often it's loss. You will lose the approval of all these adults, or you will lose your connection to God, which is a big thing that has come up in the research. Young people in these systems that are rooted in sort of behaving right, getting their obedience locked down, they walk away thinking God really does like them better when they're good and worse when they're bad. And so it's sort of part of that fear dynamic of like, I am afraid of disappointing God by never getting this right. And so when we're really mindful of that, we are aware of talking to kids a lot about grace, about what it means to say that God's grace is bigger than any mistake. We're telling stories of people in messy situations and looking at how Jesus interacts with those folks. We're helping kids see the people of Scripture as people like us with questions and doubts, and they're trying to figure it out too. And what do we notice then in light of that? They don't have to be these heroes we copy. They can be just wondering if God's really going to come through or not, in the same way that a lot of our young people are.
Yeah, that's good. And I've noticed that, not that I think it's done like great spiritual damage to me, but I'm still like deconstructing or like walking away from this humans are heroes reading of the Bible. I mean, I think the most obvious one is like as a child, as a little boy, thinking like Samson was so great because he was like strong and stuff. And then you get to read the story and you're like, oh, like there's not a single part of the story that I shouldn't be like this guy at all. And even like, like King David, Solomon, like we think of them as, heroes with faults, but like heroes. But then the whole idea of Israel asking for a king was like, no, that was a rejection of who God is. And I'm like, wait, so this story is just actually completely different than the way I've internalized it for the last 30 plus years.
Yep. And David, just, picking up on guys from the Old Testament who suck, like when we are trying to walk with students through something that is a trust-based paradigm, then that opens up all these other parts of his story that we sort of hide from Sunday school. We only do David and Goliath at Sunday school, unless you start to switch this way, and then you do David and Bathsheba, again, at the right age. But like we fully brought this in at 4th grade for the first time ever once we started doing an adjustment in the paradigm, because then you can say, David did these things, which we paraphrase to be age appropriate, and here is how God sent Nathan to like invite him back into being honest, because that's all really confession is telling the truth, knowing that God can handle that truth. And here's the things that we see David do next. And we read them the Psalms that come in David's time of sort of grief and turning. And it's the chance to say, like, even that, there is a way forward. That is who God will be. God can be with you and offer you ways forward even then. And that becomes incredibly powerful, especially for our like early adolescents, our mid-teens, because they are afraid of blowing it. They are afraid of what happens in the fallout. And you can't tell David and Bathsheba if the whole point is just to go always being right and doing what you're supposed to do. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more of the end of stories that we, like you're saying, gloss over. The ending of Noah, the ending of Jonah. It's like all of these parts that by skipping them and just looking at the mountaintop experiences, we miss the fullness of the character and the heart of God and reconciliation that you're speaking on.
Yeah. I like that in your work, you've referred to this like behavior management as obedience training, which I like that you call it that, because I immediately think about training animals, and I'm like, that's not what we're doing. That we should not be training animals here. We're raising humans.
We are raising humans. Yes. We brought home a puppy in January. It might've been the stupidest thing we ever did. Our kids are thrilled. It is just right. But when I have a puppy, do you guys also have dogs or animals in your homes at all? If you don't,
I have all of the animals for both of us.
Okay. Dan's got enough for both of us. Yeah.
Great. And like, we would like those animals to not pee in our homes, right? This is like a universal behavior that every pet that comes into our home needs to learn, is like, do not pee on my rug. And part of what we communicate when we get like heavy in an obedience training paradigm to kids is that the way that each and every one of them follows God is identical, no matter who the kid is, no matter where their story holds, no matter where they come from. To leave aside even the question of the role obedience should play in our formation, which I would say it always flows from trust and never the other way around. But putting that aside, you still have the reality that if I get to serve 20 kids from 20 stories from 20 families in my part of the world, that has its culture and context and values. There is no way that each and every one of them is supposed to take an absolutely identical next step in their journey of getting to know God. It is the Spirit of God is far too dynamic for that. The way we are made uniquely is far too dynamic for that. And so much of the obedience training model assumes that every young person's faith is cookie cutter to every other young person's faith. And therefore, we just tell kids these predetermined, universally accepted behaviors that they're supposed to comply with. And I think it really gets in the way of, to your point earlier, Dan, knowing God. Knowing a God who meets each person in their time, place, story, and uniquely asks them to do the things that are theirs to do. And so even when we have shared things like loving our neighbor, but my neighbor isn't your neighbor. Like,
right.
And so we each have to figure out how we do it uniquely.
Yeah.
And what that takes in ministry is, community and dedication to somebody. To know them and to not just have, I'm teaching Sunday school once every 6 months. And so I'm going to cookie cutter this for everyone. I'm not going to know little Davy or little Danny. And so I'm not going to know their quirks. Like as a soccer coach, I coach, 8-year-old girls on one team and 12-year-old girls on the other team. But like we have trainers that come in sometimes and are like yelling at this girl. And I'm like, no, you can't yell at that one. Like you can yell at this one, like she'll take that, but this one, like she's going to completely close down and not do that. And that only comes from being with them 6 hours a week for the last 4 years and knowing that. And so there is that dedication to this group that we're going to minister to know them on more than just a surface level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a cultural headwind we're all going into. We're in that kind of factory mindset of like, get them in, get them out, make them all look the same. It's more efficient this way, blah, blah, blah. But, the way of Jesus has always been relational. And we need to that's messy. That takes longer. We have to trust those who we're working with. We have to trust God in that because there's not a formula to just get it done. So it's harder work, but hopefully it's work that people don't have to heal from afterwards. Meredith, I appreciate your work and what you're doing. I know you're on Substack. You've written a book and I think another one coming out, right?
I do. Yeah, I have one coming out in March called Wonder. It is a collection of Bible stories, paraphrased for young people, especially if you've got kids under 12 and you're like, I don't know how I sound when I'm doing this. And then it's got little commentary notes in the bottom, like you find in a study Bible, but they're written for you as a grown-up to be like, well, when my kid asks me this thing, then what? And it's like, oh, we got notes for that too. So it's a little bit like if a kid's Bible and a study Bible had a baby. I'm very excited about it.
That's awesome.
And people can pre-order that now?
They can. Everywhere books are sold. My publisher's favorite line.
Awesome. And we'll all order that book. You'll have dozens of them, I'm sure. But if people want to follow along with your work on a more regular basis, not just when you put a book out, where can they do that?
I'm mainly on Instagram at Meredith Ann Miller. And then I have a free monthly newsletter on Substack, meredithannmiller.substack.com. And there's some weekly stuff that comes out there if people are interested in being able to have that as well.
Awesome.
That's it. Those are the only platforms I'm on.
You look ready to say something, Dan.
No. If you find a Meredith Ann Miller somewhere else,
so do be aware there are other Meredith Millers in writing space. On Goodreads, I learned that there are multiple Meredith Millers. There's one who's like a mental health expert, which is really cool. And there's a Meredith Miller who's a cyclist, which is great. But I also did learn that there is a Meredith Miller who wrote some material.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's not mine. I just have no, that one's not mine. So yeah. Please don't find me on Goodreads because just don't.
I'm sure like me, you're smart enough to change your name when you write questionable stuff.
Right. Everyone knows you use a pseudonym.
I would never do that under my actual name.
No, pen name.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Meredith, for your time. And all those links will be in the show notes.
Appreciate it.